Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you for joining us. When it comes to getting a diagnosis, biopsies can be scary, painful, and can cost the patient. They're quite invasive and require recuperation. Now, not only are they expensive, but they're even risky, especially in the case of a liver biopsy. But in some cases, patients may be able to get a diagnosis of their liver condition without an invasive procedure. Here to explain why patients may have more choices than they realize is Donna Cryer, CEO and founder of the Global Liver Institute. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Donna Cryer.
Thank you.
Donna, why are biopsies commonly recommended for patients?
Biopsies have been used historically to diagnose liver disease. But when we realize that today between a quarter and a third of Americans have some form of liver disease, and the rates of liver diseases like fatty liver disease and NASH are growing every day, we realize that we need alternatives. And so 75% of physicians recognize that NASH is underdiagnosed and undertreated. There's a lack of consensus about even how to diagnose NASH. And so, we need alternatives. And so that's what, we're talking about today, to shine a spotlight on those alternatives to biopsy to make screening for liver diseases like NASH more accessible to more people.
Well, let's talk about some of the downsides of a traditional biopsy.
Sure, and I can talk about the downsides of liver biopsy from personal experience as well as our surveying of patients. So I've had 6. I'm a liver transplant recipient, so I've been very privileged. But liver biopsy entails taking a very long needle, and traditionally how it's done is inserting it between ribs and sort of chunk taking out a segment of your liver. And so, it's by definition quite invasive. There is a risk of bleeding and death in rare cases, of course, but after the needle, a patient has to lie on their side for 1 to 6 hours to make sure that they don't bleed out. It sounds like something if I were in, Star Trek, I would say, Jim, that's barbaric. And I just can't believe that that's something that we still do today. And they're expensive. There's also, prone to error, because you may take a sample from one part of the liver that is relatively healthy, and, an inch over, it may be cancer. And so we can do better than that. And I won't even get into the problems that people have in, reading and interpreting the samples and the slides. But it's just, we can do so much better. And the exciting thing is that, there's so much innovation.
Well, what types of alternatives are available for patients based on those innovations?
So the alternatives to liver biopsy for patients, particularly for those who may be suspected of having fatty liver disease and NASH, which, with rates of obesity and diabetes and age are a lot of us. So there are 2 major buckets. There are blood tests and imaging tests. So in the blood test group, patients and physicians often, ignore or overlook the liver enzymes or liver function tests that are already in your blood work panel. The letters are, AST or ALT. They stand for very long, very long names. But those tests, or the ratio of them, or some other things that are in your normal blood work, are being looked at in different ways and in combinations. They're called FIB4 or your NAFLD fibrosis score. At some institutions, they're even, automatically calculated in the EHR for doctors. And so just asking your doctor if, based on some of the blood work that you already have, can they understand your risk for NAFLD or NASH. The other set of tests are imaging tests. Again, based on things that people have heard of. MRI-based tests like liver multiscan or ultrasound-based tests like FibroScan. So there should be some type of non-invasive diagnostic method available, no matter if someone is at an academic medical center or in a rural clinic. And that's what's so exciting because, with millions of people needing to be diagnosed, we know that even if it was a good idea, and it's not, to have a liver biopsy, millions of people couldn't have that. And so we're missing a lot of people who need to be treated and could be treated for NASH at earlier stages instead of being, diagnosed only when they have cirrhosis or cancer or are told that they need a liver transplant. And so we can do better than that. And that's why the Global Liver Institute created our Beyond the Biopsy campaign and why we're, casting this spotlight on the non-invasive diagnostics that are available today.
Could you talk a bit more about the benefits of this non-invasive approach?
Having had a liver biopsy, I, even as some scientists, debate, which test is better than the other, or which type of diagnostics is better for distinguishing between NAFLD and NASH, or looking at, treatment response. I pointed out that I could take all of the existing non-invasive diagnostics in the same time as I would lay there trying not to bleed out from a liver biopsy. And they chuckled and pointed out, like, that's true. Also, liver biopsy is so expensive. I could afford all the other non-invasive diagnostics for the same price or less than a liver biopsy, with no risk to me. And so, the advantages are, that these diagnostics, non-invasive diagnostics, are safer, they're less expensive, and they might yield more information, particularly for the imaging tests like liver multiscan that give you, when I first saw it in a scientific conference, when I saw the picture of it, I had never seen, with 25 years as a liver patient, I had really never seen a picture of my liver function. And so, for people who have any stage of disease, because there's so little conversation, about liver health, but to see their liver helps them and their doctors wrap their mind around, I need to take this seriously. This is something that is real, it's happening, even if I'm not feeling symptoms, because symptoms for NASH can be very subtle until they're very advanced. And so to have that picture, to talk to your family or to explain to your friends or your community that this is what liver disease looks like, is I think more of an advantage, and will have more of an impact than we can even recognize at this time.
Donna, where can our listeners get some more information about options and alternatives?
We have information about alternatives to liver biopsy at the Global Liver Institute's website, globalliver.org/beyond.
Donna, I really appreciate you joining us here on Health Professional Radio this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Donna Cryer. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.